Hello, Gary Stearman with another Prophecy in the News update. Today, June 2nd, Wednesday, and we're moving through an action-packed week. Israel, of course, continues to defend her name against aggressors from all over the world, being made an international pariah. Maybe you heard about the Memorial Day speech, which was billed under the rubric, Is God Angry? Back on Memorial Day, a couple days ago, President Barack Obama's Memorial Day observance was stopped in its tracks that last Monday by a torrential downpour accompanied by lightning bolts and booming thunder. Obama thrilled the crowd at Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery by appearing under an umbrella as the rain poured down, but he did not deliver his prepared remarks honoring troops who died fighting for the United States. Instead, he urged the crowd to seek shelter. Last year, at Memorial Day, he spoke at Arlington National Cemetery, where most presidents have laid wreaths on that particular national holiday. This year, he went back to his home country, hoping to make a booming Memorial Day speech from Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery. But I'll tell you what, the headlines from several news sources wondered aloud if God was angry. And why would they wonder that? Well, for one thing, Obama has pulled support away from Israel. We have here a report from Newsmax dated last May 30th, just a few days back, which I think states the real central issue in the Middle East today. And I'm reading Dateline Jerusalem, Washington's unprecedented backing for a UN resolution for a nuclear-free Middle East that singles out Israel has both angered and deeply worried the Jewish state, although officials are cagey about openly criticizing their biggest ally. The resolution adopted by the United Nations, that was last Friday, just a few days ago, calls upon Israel to join the Non-Proliferation Treaty and urges it to open its facilities to inspection. It also calls for a regional conference in 2012 to advance the goal of a nuclear-free Middle East. And so, while essentially giving tacit approval to Iran to go ahead and become a nuclear power, the Obama administration is asking for nuclear disclosure from the state of Israel. Now, up to this time, Israel's nuclear facilities, its reactors, its weapons facilities at Dimona and other places have been a top secret no-no. A conversation about these places is not to be heard in official circles. But Israel is widely believed to be the only nuclear power in the Middle East, and they have at least 200 warheads with a policy of deliberate ambiguity. And that means they're not saying, yes, we have them, no, we don't, we just don't want to talk about them. Well, the move being sponsored by the United States is motivated by the desire to cause Israel to openly disclose its nuclear capabilities. This would give the enemy a tremendous, tremendous advantage that they don't now possess. Israeli authorities, again, and Netanyahu are said to be absolutely furious at the Obama administration. Netanyahu was in Washington. There were to be further talks between Obama and Netanyahu after the recent event in the Mediterranean in which the Gaza police, or that is the Gaza peace flotilla, got into a brouhaha with the Israeli Navy and Air Force. Up until that time, the talks were on. Now they are off. Netanyahu is back home handling a number of problems. Meanwhile, in Europe, economic woes are continuing to plague all the nations gathered together under the banner of the European Union and, by the way, of a European currency which is rapidly disappearing. The euro may be about to die. As we reported last week, the Germans have a desire now to return to the Deutschmark. The Greek euro is simply unsupported. The French support of the euro is fading very rapidly. The euro is dying. And guess what's happening? This is causing many, many Europeans and many European heads of state to look to the East for help. From the Financial Times, dated May 30th, 2010, we have this: when Russia and the European Union meet on Tuesday, now this is yesterday as we speak, for their first summit since the Lisbon Treaty came into force, economic crisis could push both sides toward greater cooperation. What? Russia and Europe coming together to support each other economically? Who would have thought such a thing? Russia's role as the EU's dominant energy supplier is under threat because of Europe's potential development of shale gas, while cheaper liquefied natural gas from the Middle East is rivaling Russian supplies. The EU is on its back foot because of the Eurozone crisis and needs Russia, which has 41% of the 460 billion hard currency reserves it holds in euros. Wow. Positions have been alternating back and forth. Strategists are scratching their heads. But the word is the Russians may come forward to forge new concords with the leaders of Europe in order to save the euro, thus bringing together the governments of Europe and Russia. And I want to read a prophecy to you because this one has stumped the experts for years, but this recent news report may throw a lot of light on it. In Ezekiel 38, we have the famous prophecy of Gog. Gog comes forward, and as we've discussed over the years many, many times, Gog is accompanied by an alliance of nations. Ezekiel 38:5 names the allies: Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, and all of them with shield and helmet. Verse 6 says Gomer and all his bands. And Gomer, of course, represents Germany. Or, let's put it this way, the northeastern European tribes. Now, people have wondered aloud for years, how can this be? How can Gomer march with Gog? Because the Europeans have not been allied with the Russians. Quite the opposite. The Financial Times headlines it. Headlines perhaps the answer to this prophecy: economic woes bringing Russia and Europe closer. And the Bible says that ultimately they will draw so close that they will march southward toward Israel as allies. We've wondered, how in the world could this happen? But now, with the crash of the euro and the difficulty of maintaining the growing need in Europe for energy, natural gas and oil that only Russia can provide, we see how that alliance can come to pass. A prophecy, I think, is being fulfilled right before our eyes. Ezekiel 38:6, talking about Gog allied with, quote, Gomer and all his bands. These would be the Germanic people marching with the Russians. Again, things are happening so fast these days you can hardly keep track of them. Gary Stearman with another Prophecy in the News update, urging you to continue in prayer for J.R. Church, who is recovering but still needs all the help he can get. His doctors are encouraged. He's encouraged. He's sounding much stronger every day, and we value your prayers. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow on Prophecy in the News.